Thanks for your company. We've got details of many stories to share with you today, and coming up shortly, the Ghana Center for Democratic Development has expressed worry about the violence that characterized the just-ended voter registration exercise, describing the developments as having the potential to derail the country's democratic gains. Ahead of the 2020 general election, CEDEO is warning if major violent acts like shooting, stabbing, and burning of property are not nipped in the bud, the country could witness more deaths and vandalism of state and political party-owned property, as it happened in some constituencies. Head of Security and Governance at CEDEO, Nana Kwabena Brampa, said this at a roundtable discussion on measures needed to ensure a violent-free election and political environment through the enforcement of existing laws.
Across all both MPP and NDC primaries, we have issued the voter register. So that's the basic document that always orchestrates violence in the electoral process. That's why we have more registered violent cases in the pre-election environment. For the 2020 voter registration exercise is no exception. We have had a number of election-related violence. The difference between now and us NS portrayed is that in this voter registration exercise, compared to 2012 and the previous ones, we have recorded more major cases than the previous ones. As NS said, in the previous one, we had more cases recorded in the minor cases, abuse of incumbency, threat of violence, issuing threats on the social media and other things. But this one, we have had a lot of major cases, being deaths and the burning of property and other things. This is the data showing the occurrence of the incident that we had. You could see out of the 20 major cases had 14. About 70% of the cases are major. This is the trend that we see as dangerous because comparing to 2012-2016, we had more cases, but most of the cases were at the minor areas. That did not result into death, that did not result into injuries, property burns, and other things. But this one have recorded major cases. So you see 14 of them, 7% were major incidents, 2 deaths, several injuries, and properties burnt and destroyed. 20% were moderate cases that involves intimidation, threat of violence, harm, incitement languages, and abuse of public order acts, use of abusive language, and vandalization of publicity materials, as NS said. And you could see so many of the publicity materials, not only for political parties, but even electoral commission materials. Directional signs to registration centers were destroyed. So everybody is affected. Then just 1% of the minor incidents, rumors and allegations. So it tells you that, yes, we have had increase of cases, but the categories of cases we are recording are more falling on the dangerous aspect of it that results in damage to properties and deaths. So we need to be very careful as to how to tackle the issues.
Well, let's stay on elections. The Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, is asking the Ghana Police Service to speed up investigations into violence recorded at centers and share updates with the public to strengthen confidence of voters. They also make demands of the EC in recommendations contained in their preliminary report on the voter registration exercise. Joining us is Mausi Dumenu. He's a research analyst at the CEDEO. Thank you so much for your time this morning, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Well,
good morning to your listeners and viewers.
Great to have you here. We've just got about 4 months to the election, and there's a lot of pressure on the Electoral Commission going into the December polls, but we are still making demands of them. Realistically, though, especially with regards to the issue of allowing more persons to register, do you think that the EC will be in the capacity to do that, even as they prepare for the polls?
Okay, thank you. I think that so far, when in CODEO's observation on the last phase of the mock exercise, there were instances where in some registration centers we had people. A few people in the queue after the time the exercise was ended. And in some cases as well, there were places where we couldn't find so many people. We couldn't find so many people at the registration center after the time the mock was ended. And so going forward, I think the EC has the data of all its polling stations. office registration centers, and then I believe they have like a population that they were expecting for each of these polling stations each of these registration centers to have registered. So I believe they have to do the analysis quickly and then find out where there may be pitfalls. And if they still believe that the thresholds within those registration centers have not been met, then they could find a way to do a sort of mop-up to try and then, fill up for the numbers. So I think this may be one angle to it. But at the same time, we're also considering the time frame within which all these things must happen. Because already, there's a lot of controversy leading up to the exercise, the voter registration exercise, which has ended. And so believe that there's not so much time to go. And the other exercises that are ahead, so for instance, the exhibition exercise is also ahead. All these things need to be done for the register to be certified ahead of the election. So there's really not so much time. But it would be good for the EC to also come up with an analysis that shows that this is what we're expecting, for instance, in this particular registration center or this particular constituency or region. And that when we match the numbers, probably there's a shortfall or probably we've gone beyond the target that we are looking at. So this would help to inform such a decision.
Well, in your report that you discussed yesterday, you cite 14 major incidents of violence. We've tried education. We've tried involving the political parties to speak to members at the grassroots level to ensure that we record very minimal, or if possible, no incidents of violence at all. But we seem not to be getting anywhere really with our fight against violence relating to our electoral process. What's the problem? What should we be doing, really?
No, Kashiji, can you give me a bit of clarity here? Yesterday we had an event that was on electoral violence.
The round table discussion is what I'm talking about.
I just want to be clear which one it is. Okay, so you mentioned. Okay, so what we did was that. Can you do the question again?
I'm just saying that in your report you cite 14 major incidents of violence, including deaths and various degrees of injuries. And I'm saying that as a people, we've tried education. We've tried engaging political parties to speak to their members at the grassroots level to ensure that we don't record election-related violence. We don't seem to be getting anywhere. This is a registration exercise that has recorded as many as 14 incidents of violence, including deaths. So I'm asking, from the point of CDD, what more should we be doing really to ensure that we're dealing with the problem?
So I believe that this is a whole multifaceted issue. It's an issue that requires a multifaceted approach, okay? And we've mentioned issues around medication, which is also very important, that the electorate needs to know exactly what the rules are, so that these things may know what the rules are. Political parties need to also, they've been engaged, and then they also need to keep engaging their agents who go to the polling station, because usually some of these issues are sparked by polling station agents. That's where the issue starts from. But in all these things, there's also the angle about enforcement of the law. And that is also crucial, because there needs to be a balance between all these things. The education is important, yes. The dialogue between the political parties is also important, because we need to deal with not just the law itself. I mean, the moral suasion aspect is also important, and then that is why all these things are coming in. And so the enforcement part should also come in very well, where there will be the political will to, actually penalize people. I mean, prosecute them for whatever offenses that they have been cited to commit, and then work towards getting a conviction, so that if people are sanctioned, if people are punished, and there's evidence of it that these people have been sanctioned, it would sort of create a deterrent effect. So I believe, as of now, there's not so much deterrent effect, because people have committed crimes in the past. They've not been punished, people have walked free, and so that has created that sense of impunity. And so that is why we are realizing a lot of these issues that are coming up. And so enforcement is key. Just like I said, it's very key.
Let's go back to the issue of requesting the EC to open up the register again. We've been told by the EC that they actually recorded low voter turnout during the mop-up exercise over the weekend. So what really is justifying this call?
Okay, so with this, what I would want to make a bit of reference to CODEO's reports that were generated within this period. And
okay.
What we realized was that I think within the first 3 phases of the exercise, people did not really know much about the EC's movement plan.
Okay.
And all that. I mean, and so there was a big push to get registered within the first phase because you think that if you don't get to register, that is it. They may not come. And so a lot of people, really pushed to get registered within the first few phases of the exercise. And you realize that even within the first few phases of the exercise, so for instance, if I take for instance phase 2 or phase 3, the first 3 days, because they know the issue will be here for 6 days, and in people's mind they may not come back. There's that push to get registered at all costs. So you realize that there was a lot of classmen around the voter registration centers within that period. And so it's likely a lot of people may have registered within those times. And even within the last phases of it, it's likely that within the first 3 days of the first 3 days of the registration center, within the last phase of the exercise, a lot of people may have registered. And so that may probably account for the low voter turnout that occurred during the mop-up exercise.
Thank you very much for your time. Mausi Dumenu is research analyst at the CEDEO, speaking on their roundtable discussion on violence during the voter registration exercise, and also sharing some thoughts on CODEO's statement asking the EC to open up the registration centers for persons who are not able to register over the period, and also asking the police to speed up investigation to strengthen voter confidence.